Welcome back to another episode of I Wish They Knew, a show where we share big ideas that deserve more attention and about the time it takes to enjoy a cup of coffee. I'm Joe Hirsch. Today's wish comes from Matt DiBari. Matt is Chief Product Officer at SpotHero. It's my go-to parking app, especially when we go to DC. That place is a nightmare. He first joined SpotHero as VP of Product, bringing more than 15 years of experience to the job, including prior roles at Cars.com and CDK Global. Hey, Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to have a quick chat.
Yeah, well, not as fast as it takes to park a car with SpotHero, but almost. So
Awesome.
in college, you studied computer science and math. You threw in a little philosophy for good measure. I'm wondering, did that philosophy degree, did that cause you to contemplate the big questions of life, like why is it so darn costly and inefficient to park cars in major metro areas?
I think it caused me to question everything all the time, which is probably why I fell into a career in product. Yeah, so why is it costly and time consuming to park is really people just don't know enough on what's available, right? If you live in a city, you tend to take a lot of public transit, and then the occasional times you need to drive, you're intimidated by, is there street parking? What do those crazy signs say? There's elaborate rules on street parking, towing, hours I have to pay, hours I don't have to pay. The meters aren't super clear. Um, and if you live in the suburbs, you're just scared of the city in general. So you have that general fear of, I don't even know how I'm going to get there. So what I love is what we do is we try to take a lot of that fear out, right? Is we give you a chance to look ahead of time, plan ahead of time, know what you're going to pay, where to park, how to get where you're going, which is one of the small pains in your life that we can help remove for you.
Yeah, you shared some ridiculous numbers with me and I wasn't even aware of this, that we spend almost 17 hours a year looking for parking, and that wasted time, it all adds up to about $345 billion annually. That's nuts.
Yeah, we did a big study with DePaul University. We're based out of Chicago, so we worked with one of our local universities and did a big study on both the impact for just time and then also smog and all of the environmental impacts. And if you could just stop circling and start parking, like that's a huge impact on your day, but also the environment and everyone else's day. Because it's not just you getting off the road; it's everyone getting off the road then.
So there are a number of players in the space. Why is SpotHero standing out right now?
I think what we did differently than all the other players is we invested in people on the ground in every city. What we realized early on, our co-founders, who are Chicago-based, they lived right by Wrigley Field. If you know Chicago, it's a historic ballpark, but it's in a neighborhood, and there's no parking near it. And if you live near there, talk about the confusing street signs of all of the when you can and can't parks and all the tickets that it ensues. They racked up thousands of dollars in parking tickets and decided, there's got to be a better way. But then we learned when we went to the next city. Oh, it's different there. And we went to the next city. It's different there. So we really invested in getting boots on the ground and getting close to the cities and understanding that, yeah, the crazy rules in DC because of all the national security is wildly different than parking in New York, where a lot of it's valet and Class A office buildings, and they have to fit your car in a tiny elevator to go up and down. And there's just so we spent the time to really get to know each city and get to know all the operators in each city, and also the customers in each city. So that way we can deliver the experience that they need, because handing your keys to a valet in New York is different than parking your car in an open lot in Los Angeles. It's wildly different, and we're able to bring those different experiences depending on where you are.
Okay, so you lead product management and product design teams at SpotHero, and obviously there's a lot of spillover between those two teams. In a perfect world, that could lead to breakthroughs. In a not so perfect world, breakdowns. What have you learned about the power and the limitations of collaboration? And I guess to put the question a different way, when teams need to work together, what works best?
Yeah, the biggest thing I always lead with my teams, especially if you throw engineering in the mix too, right? We work with the hand in hand with the engineers every day as well. Is It starts with the relationship, and I know it's hard now with remote work or hybrid work or not everybody in the same place all the time. But we really drive, and I push the teams to have lunch together, have coffee before work, or talk about things outside of work together, right? Can you build that empathy and you build that connection? I like to use the analogy of, like, you have this goodwill bucket and you're constantly doing all these little things to fill that bucket up, and then when you have those collisions, you dump a bunch of the water out, and you're just trying to constantly refill it and keep it from going empty. And you refill it not by like work stuff. Typically you refill it through all the other things of, hey, how's your kid, how's your mom, oh, did you watch that show yesterday, whatever that is. And you really just need to like each other first, and then you work together second. And especially in roles like this where you're really working together 40, 50 hours a week, and you're trying to do something really hard or challenging, and you're taking a lot of risk together. That all starts with the foundation of trust. And we do a lot of stuff here, even just whiskey Wednesdays and happy hours and stuff where we try to bring people together and take a little break from the work. I think today there's like a board game night, and people will be hanging out here till who knows when, playing board games. But like that's where you break down those walls and you build up all that trust that you need to kind of trade on later, to not be too cynical about it.
What about in terms of the actual interactions that are taking place within the workday itself? Did you find that going to sort of a hybrid model, which I believe you guys are at the moment, right? So in a hybrid space, collaboration can take a ding. How did you create more natural but also impactful opportunities for collaboration despite all those limitations?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is give people a shared problem and a good set of boundaries, right? Because if you give them a problem that's kind of unending, right, it can kind of unravel. But if you give them a hard set of boundaries of, hey, you need to solve it in this way, or inside of this scope, or in this time horizon, just any type of boundaries, it starts forcing the interaction to kind of change, right? It becomes much more, let's throw all the data on the table, and then let's throw all the solutions on the table, and let's try to figure that out. And for our working groups on that, like I tell my team they should spend 50% of their time on problem discovery and solutioning, and then half the time, building it. So if you could spend, you know, every Friday just kind of, or however you can chunk out that time, but it needs a big piece of time. Where you're kind of in a safe space and you've got the digital whiteboards or whatever tool of choice you like, and you've got a good set of boundaries on what you're trying to solve for, and you understand that what you're solving for has an impact. So, hey, I'm making a person's life easier when they go to work tomorrow, or when they're stressful trying to get to that doctor's appointment. Hey, I know at least that last 5 minutes is not going to be as horrible as maybe once I get in the office. We try to eliminate that stress at the end, and we make sure our people are excited about eliminating that stress, or helping an operator run their garage more efficiently. Post COVID, there's more people driving than ever, but the times and everything are different, and they need to plan for that. And how can we make their job easier, or make that valet not as stressed out because they can plan for, oh, it's a Thursday night, and weirdly enough, we're going to have an extra 100 people here today. I need to get a second person here. I make sure that people are connected to that happy ending, that joy at the end, and then they tend to get more creative about solving it then.
So as someone who lives and breathes all things feedback, I just can't help but wonder, as you guys collect user feedback, how much of that is actually finding its way into product improvements? Can you talk about some of the ways that SpotHero is putting customer feedback to good use?
Yeah, so we ask every single Parker to provide a rating and review. Um, those go directly into multiple Slack channels, and every PM and PD is subscribed to those. So like we see it live as it's coming in. We also have report cards and dashboards that are going to the operators to know how they could be better, and what they can do differently. But outside of that, we also have we call it continuing research, where every month we take a product manager and a product designer, usually not the two that work together every day, and we have them just research on a select area. So they'll go do market research, they'll go do qual and quant studies, because we're constantly craving what's happening out in the world, right? Because we wouldn't have known post-COVID that the revenge travel would have happened if we weren't talking to people. And we were able to get ahead of that and invest a ton in our airport division and get a bunch of airport parking to beat that. But we knew that from talking to people and doing more casual research than just a very focused, dedicated research. A similar thing that came out of that was our work with Google and Apple Maps. We work with both the Maps platforms now, and that came out of the fact that a lot of people moved during COVID. A lot of people changed locations. A lot of people changed jobs, and they didn't know how to get where they were going anymore. And they all said, "Oh, we start with the maps." So we're like, "Okay, we need to talk to the maps companies and get on those platforms, because your regular 9 to 5 commuter is not the same anymore, and we need to go find them where they are." So we pushed hard with those companies. Luckily, we have a long-standing relationship with both of them, and we're able to kind of connect the dots there. And now, when you search for parking on those maps, we show up, which is great. But that comes from us not doing outcome focused research, but just general research and talking to people.
Yeah. So, and for those who don't know, you're referring to that partnership with Google that now SpotHero is embedded within the Maps app, so that you can, at the end of your ride, find a place to park the car, which makes sense.
every drive leads to parking, and we sold that to Google for a while, and they heard it, and yeah, so now if you search parking as, if you're looking for a destination, hey, Wrigley Field, I use that same example, parking, you see the field and you see the little P's all the way around it, and we power most of those, which is great.
So listening to the customer and really paying attention to what they're saying is probably the best way to create those big breakthroughs on the basis of that feedback.
Yeah, for sure. Nobody knows more about what you need to do than your customers.
So Spot Hero is now a growth stage company. Congrats. Any founder will tell you that the bigger you get, the harder it is to maintain that culture and first principles that pave the way for the early success. Can you offer any examples or insights on how you're trying to maintain that company culture even as you continue to grow?
Yeah, since I joined, I mean, we've tripled in size. So in the early days, right, everybody knew each other. So now there's a situation where, hey, I got a Slack from somebody, I don't know who they are, and vice versa. I've had people like in the lunchroom ask me, hey, what do you do here? And I mean, I'm on the website, like I would hope, but like that's normal. Like you get to a stage where people just don't know everybody. So it's less about the human connections now, and it's more about the mission. And every 3 weeks we remind everyone the mission, right? We send out results, we send out what we're doing and why we're doing it, to really make people still attached to that. We are taking that stress out of what could be a very stressful time, right? Trying to find that parking spot, trying to get to that doctor appointment, trying to get to work that day or get to that job interview. And we really try to humanize that connection of what the work is for, to get people to connect to the work and then connect to the company. And we've got big banners that we print up. We have 3 locations, Chicago, New York, and Toronto. We hang them up in all the offices, of kind of reminding people of, when I park, what I expect. And it's really about reconnecting everyone back to that home base of why we exist. And then the other thing is we challenge our employees to go use the product all the time, right? If you're, if you're going to the airport, use our product. If you're going to, a Taylor Swift concert, use us, right? Try it out. Kind of that eating your own dog food, but it really does remind you of, oh, if I don't use it, how stressful things can be, and if I do use it, how easy things can be. And sometimes, our own employees give us some good feedback on what we need to do as well.
Yeah, if you're closest to the problem, you're also closest to the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you're helping people find a place to park, I'm wondering if maybe the next challenge is teaching people how to park. Can we do that? Because I've been noticing a lot of cars kind of sitting just a little bit too askew in those lines. Any plans to fix it?
Yeah, I don't know if we can fix that, but there is one thing that I learned just recently, which is about the accessibility challenge. So a lot of times, especially like when people like to creep into that striped line next to the accessible spots, that's there because ramps need that space. It's not like, oh, we just add an extra 5 feet there. Like those are legal requirements. So like, yeah, it's a little bit harder, right? So how do you explain to people or get them to empathize with others, right? Like, hey, when you're on that line, yeah, it's just you and your car, so you can pop in and out because you left yourself some space on the driver's side, but you're really close on the passenger side. That might be a family of 4 that's trying to get somewhere, and now the kids are either going to bang into your car because they're kids and they're not paying attention, or hey, now they're all trying to climb out the other side. Like, other people exist. I always remind my children that they're 6 and 9, so they're still a little bit in their own head all the time. But like, other people exist. Like, that's an important thing. I don't know how we bring that into the app, but it's not a bad message to try to convey.
Yeah, it starts with parking, it ends in ethics. Exactly.
That's the philosophy.
There it is. There it is. The app is Spot Hero, and Matt DiBari wants to help you park your car faster, cheaper, and yes, within the lines. Matt, thanks for sharing your wish with us today.
Thanks, Joe.